Happy Friday, everybody. Today is Friday, April 10th. I'm going to start off again, just like we always do, by taking a look at our calendar, excuse me, for this week. You see that we are on Friday. We have the little pink star for today, which tells us that we have an exit ticket for today. We're going to talk about what that means in just a minute. If you are behind for some reason in your assignments, remember that we had 6 problems with greatest common factor and 6 problems with difference of squares due on Tuesday and Thursday this week. If you took a picture of that assignment and emailed it to me, you should have already gotten an email response with your grade, and that'll be important in just a minute. If for some reason you have not taken a picture of these yet, it's extra important that you do the exit ticket today so that you get as many points as possible on these assignments and in the grade book. Next week, we'll talk about what grades look like. I'll be entering some in this weekend so that you are up to date on where we're at and are getting as much credit as possible. I know it's a little weird with e-learning, so my contact information is still here, my email, my phone number, and then of course, if you don't get the problems copied down during this video, you can always go on to the tiny URL, that link that is here too. So let's talk about what today looks like. It's a little different than the other days. Today is an exit ticket day, as you saw on our calendar. First thing, we're going to celebrate the fact that it's Friday, just like this cat jumping off the bed. I know that e-learning is tough and it's hard to keep yourself focused when you're at home. So I appreciate all of those of you who have been watching these videos, who are popping into my Zoom and asking me some really good questions, because this is a tough time. So definitely give yourself a break this weekend. And I'm going to let you know right now that if you did really well this week, so if you got a 6 out of 6 on both assignments, it's an early weekend for you. You can sign out of this video right now because you are good to go. What exit ticket day means is that we are going to set up and then you're going to work through the 4 problems, 2 on greatest common factor and 2 on difference of squares, so that you can get points back on your assignments from this week. So we don't have office hours in person where you can make up assignments. So like I said, I've built that into each week. So if you have gotten those assignments back and you didn't get a full 100% on them, this is your chance to increase that grade. And we're going to talk about what those problems look like right now. So first thing that you're going to want to do, just like always, on that lined piece of paper, you're going to want to go ahead, copy down these 4 problems. It's 1, 2, 5, and 6 on my screen. I don't care if you number them 1, 2, 3, and 4, but these are the 4 problems that are part of your exit ticket for today. So go ahead and get those copied down. If you are feeling like Ariel right now because you've looked away a little bit this week, or maybe you weren't tuned in completely for the videos, and you are just like, what in the world has been happening? I'm going to go ahead and help walk you through how to set these problems up, 1, 2, 5, and 6, and give you a couple hints and tips so that, let's slide these hints over so we make sure they're not cut off, so that you have your best chance of being successful on these assignments. So let's start off with a review of this greatest common factor. For number 1 and number 2, we're going to be factoring using the greatest common factor method. So we need to think back to what we talked about Monday and Tuesday, and we need to think about the letter or the number that both of our terms share. We're remembering that each of our problems here has 2 terms in it. So we have our first term and our second term for problem 1, our first term and our second term for problem number 2. And we need to ask ourselves those 2 important questions. First, is there a number that both of these terms share? Second, is there a letter that both of these terms share? So we're going to set up the first part together, and I'm going to kind of let you go from there. But for number 1, when we look at our 2 terms and we think about, man, what number can I divide 28 and 12 by? Well, I know that 12 goes into 12, but it doesn't go into 28. I know that 6 goes into 12, but it doesn't go into 28. And then I think about 3. I know I can divide 12 by 3, but that doesn't go into 28. So I remember that I can divide both of these numbers by 4. I'm going to look at both of them and say, is there a letter that they can both be divided by? And I see that there's a C in the first term, but there's not a C in the second one. So I am going to leave my letter alone for now because I don't see that it's shared. It's not a common factor for both of them. So our hint that we know that we are taking out of our expression is the 4, and we need to remember that we are dividing both of our terms by that number 4. So I'm going to just put that little division of 4 so that we can fill in the rest of our parentheses and complete our problem here. So there's our little hint for number 1. Let's do the exact same thing with number 2. When I look at number 2, I am going to ask my first question, is there a number that these terms share? And there is no number in it at all, so I can go ahead and think about what letter they both share. I see that I have an x squared in my first term and an x in my second term. I can't take an x squared out of both of them, but I can take an x out because they both have that x to the first. And I also see a y, but that's only in my first term, so it's not in my second term. So I'm going to just take out that greatest common factor of x, the thing that they both share. And I'm going to set up my problem the rest of the way so that I can think about what I'm going to be filling in those blanks. And I fill in the blanks by just going ahead and dividing my 2 terms by that greatest common factor of x, and keeping in mind those exponent rules that we talk about. Be careful here, we're not going to get a 0. We should get some value for that second blank. This should not be a 0. For number 5 and 6, we're going to switch gears and we're going to be moving away from that greatest common factor, but we're going to review how to find our factors with our difference of squares. I've set up our problems for us so that all we need to do is fill in those blanks. We know and need to remind ourselves that we should see a subtraction sign in between our 2 terms, which we do. So we don't have any primes here. We can just go ahead and find those solutions. For number 5, I know that I am going to be taking the square root of each section of my expression and every part of my term and polynomial. So I'm going to set up and I'm going to put my x's at the beginning, because when I take my square root of my x's, I'm going to get just a single x. And I'm going to take my square root of 225 to fill into the second part of that blank. I'm going to do the same thing with number 6. I'm going to take my square root of 81. And since it's the first part of my expression, I know that square root of 81 is going to go into that first blank in my answer. I know also that I'm going to take the square root of my y squared, and I know that's going to go because it's my second part of my problem in the second part of my answer. And I also need to take the square root of 4, and because it's combined with my y, I need to add it into the first part of that second piece of my answer. So I'm not going to go ahead, I'm not going to give you every single piece of our answer here. Make sure we can still see that y squared though. I want you to think about how we break down those pieces, but think about where we plug in those squares, those square roots after we take them, according to kind of those color hints that I just gave you here for number 6. Okay. If you are still stuck on these, I'm happy to walk you through them in more detail, but I do want you to take some time to think them through on your own. So please, 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 if you're still like, uh-oh, I'm Ariel, I don't know what to do, stop into my Zoom today. Ask me those questions so that you feel really good about these 2 strategies, because next week we're going to be moving on to some different ones. If you have questions about your grades or anything like that, you're also going to shoot me a text or send me an email, a reminder when you have your answers completed. You're going to take a picture of those answers and you're going to email them to me. My email is at the bottom of the screen here for you. I cannot give you points back if you don't send me a picture with the work done for number 1, 2, 5, and 6. So I look forward to getting all of your emails. Have a great weekend. I can't wait to see all of you in Zoom. If you're not going to be in today, make sure you stay safe. Let me know if you need anything. and I will see all of you on Monday of next week. Have a great weekend, guys.